I have seen brilliant children turn into obedient machines. I have seen entire societies surrender their freedom for comfort. And I have seen how real stupidity is not a lack of intelligence, but a choice. Yes, most people stay stupid, not because they are born that way, but because it's easier to obey than to think. Easier to conform than to question. Easier to feel safe than to be free. Modern man surrounds himself with technology, opinions, and information, but remains empty inside. He scrolls through life, but never reflects. He speaks in trends, but never in truth. He reacts, but never questions why he feels what he feels. And here is the terrifying truth. This stupidity is not accidental. It is designed, cultivated, rewarded, because a stupid population is a controllable one. There's a reason the world feels broken, a reason why the loudest people say the least, why power falls into the hands of the foolish while the wise stay silent in the shadows. It's not because intelligence is rare, it's because stupidity is comfortable. Stupid people don't question, they obey. They don't think, they repeat. They don't evolve, they consume. And the world loves them for it. Society doesn't punish stupidity, it promotes it. It gives it talk shows, followers, elections, and applause. Because stupid people are easier to manage, easier to distract, easier to sell lies to. You see it every day. The coworker who mocks deep thought. The influencer who confuses confidence with wisdom. The masses who will die defending a belief they've never examined. Stupid people aren't always the ones with low grades. They're the ones with no self-awareness, no curiosity, no inner compass. They live on autopilot. They laugh at truth. They fear change. And worst of all, they feel powerful in their ignorance. But here's the darkest part. Stupidity is contagious. The more you surround yourself with it, the more it infects your soul until you forget what it feels like to think. If you've ever felt like the world is upside down, if you've ever wondered why idiocy thrives while wisdom dies, then this video is for you. Because I didn't just understand stupidity, I exposed it for what it truly is. A spiritual sickness designed to keep you blind, obedient, and numb. And here are 5 signs of stupid people. Number 1. Stupid people are controlled by others. There is a truth so disturbing most will never dare to accept it. You are not free. You are being controlled, not with chains, not with weapons, but with ideas that are not your own. And the most frightening part? You think you chose them. The fact that millions of people share the same forms of mental pathology does not make these people sane. I wrote this because I saw the sickness. How man became a puppet long before he noticed the strings. You may vote, you may speak, you may even protest, but if your thoughts are handed to you by the screen, the system, the tribe, then you are not thinking, you are obeying. This is not intelligence, this is social performance. It is stupidity with a mask of modernity. Look at your life. Do you believe what you believe because you examined it or because it was popular? Do you chase your dreams or the ones sold to you through advertising and applause? Most people today are not guided by reason. They are moved like cattle, trained to fear disapproval, crave acceptance, and seek reward. They repeat slogans, they pick sides, they attack what they're told is the enemy, and defend what they were never allowed to question. And the world claps for them because stupid people are easy to control. They do not resist, they do not rebel, they obey even as they think they are free. You want proof? Look at the man who works a job he hates year after year because that's what a good man does until he dies. He dies full of regret. Look at the woman who silences her voice, sacrifices her dreams just to be acceptable because they were told her to be humble. Look at the millions who scroll endlessly, rage aimlessly, and consume thoughtlessly, believing they are informed, when in truth they are just programmed. The real danger of stupidity is not that people lack knowledge, it's that they lack the courage to think for themselves, and so they become hosts, infected by opinions they never questioned, fears they never faced, and identities they never chose. This is what I called the automaton personality, the person who no longer is, but merely functions, who laughs when told, buys when told, hates when told, and sleeps while believing they are awake. But here's the cruelest irony. The more someone is controlled, the more convinced they are that they're in control. That's how deep the illusion goes. And here's the dark truth. The world does not need intelligent people. It does not reward truth seekers. It rewards obedience, compliance, performance. So ask yourself, who is making your choices? Who benefits from your silence? Who profits from your confusion? Because until you can answer that, you are not living. You are being lived. And there is no intelligence in that. There is only noise, and underneath the noise, a hollow, obedient shell. Number 2, compromising with disrespect. When pleasing becomes self-betrayal, there is a kind of stupidity that wears a smile, that calls itself nice, that endures disrespect quietly day after day, until nothing is left of the self but politeness. I have seen this tragedy countless times. A man who swallows every insult to avoid confrontation. A woman who bends her values just to be loved. A child who is taught that being good means never saying no. And I tell you this, that is not kindness. That is self-abandonment. And it is one of the most dangerous forms of stupidity, because it hides behind virtue. You become so desperate to be accepted, so afraid of being disliked, that you begin to betray your own soul, piece by piece. You tolerate being ignored. You excuse being mocked. You normalize being used, all because you have been conditioned to fear disapproval more than degradation. But let me ask you, what is the cost of being liked by everyone if it means no one respects you? What is the price of peace if it means the death of your dignity? In my work, I have often said, the task we must set for ourselves is not to feel secure, but to be able to tolerate insecurity. You must learn to disappoint others to remain whole. Because if you live to avoid conflict, you will become a stranger to yourself. Modern life has glorified compliance. It teaches you to be agreeable, flexible, emotionally available at all times. And yet, why do so many feel invisible? Why do so many lie awake at night wondering why no one sees them? It is because they have trained the world to treat them as background noise. And the world listens. Let me be clear, there is nothing noble about letting people walk over you. There is nothing enlightened about staying silent when your boundaries are crossed. If someone continually disrespects you, it is not your job to understand them. It is your responsibility to protect yourself, because the more you compromise with disrespect, the more you teach yourself that your voice doesn't matter, and eventually you believe it. So, I say this to you. Stop pleasing those who only take. Stop apologizing for having needs. Stop calling weakness peace. You were not born to be agreeable. You were born to be authentic. And sometimes authenticity demands that you say the one word stupid people never dare to say no. Number 3, chained to things. You attach to what can leave you. The modern human being has forgotten how to be alone without being empty. He clings to what he owns, and worse, to the people who validate his worth, as if he would cease to exist without their reflection. Modern man lives under the illusion that he knows what he wants, while he actually wants what he is supposed to want. This is not just about money. This is not just about objects. It is about attachment to anything that prevents you from facing yourself. You attach to a romantic partner and call it love, when in truth it is dependency. You attach to your job title, your clothes, your routines, because you do not know who you are without them. You attach to people who drain you, to relationships that hurt you, because the silence of being alone terrifies you more than the pain of staying. And I say to you, this is a quiet form of stupidity, not because you lack intelligence, but because you have given up your inner authority. You outsource your happiness. You hand your peace to people who can walk away. You give your identity to roles, objects, and labels that can be taken from you in an instant. A breakup shatters you, not because you lost love, but because you had no self beyond it. A job loss destroys you, not because your work was your passion, but because you tied your worth to a paycheck. A friend's betrayal ruins you, not because you lost a connection, but because your confidence lived in their approval. This is the lie of the modern world, that you are only as valuable as what you possess, be it people, achievements, or things. But let me remind you, anything you depend on for your identity will eventually own you, and whatever owns you can control you, and that is how stupidity begins, through spiritual surrender disguised as love, success, or status. When you cannot sit in a room alone without distraction, without someone else's hand holding yours, or a screen lighting your face, when you cannot feel whole in that silence, you are not living. You are merely attaching. You are clinging to rafts that will eventually sink. I believe that true freedom was not the ability to choose between things, but the ability to live beyond them. Not I am what I have, but I am even if I have nothing. So let me ask you, if the person you love left, if the job disappeared, if the applause stopped, would there still be a self left standing? If not, then it's time to let go of the illusion and begin the sacred work of becoming whole from within. Number 4. Ego over truth, the narcissism trap. There is a sickness in the modern soul, a deep wound that no technology, no success, no applause can heal. It is the sickness of narcissism, and it is far more dangerous than most people realize. I do not mean vanity in the shallow sense. I mean the deeper, more insidious kind of narcissism. The inability to see beyond oneself, the reflex to protect one's ego, even when truth is knocking at the door. You see, the narcissistic person doesn't just love themselves. They are trapped inside themselves. They don't ask, well, what is right? They ask, how do I look? They don't ask what is true. They ask, do they still admire me? This is the kind of person who cannot learn, because learning requires humility. It requires admitting you were wrong. But the narcissist would rather burn everything down than be corrected. And today, the world rewards this sickness. Social media creates millions of mirrors. Everyone performs, everyone curates, everyone screams, look at me. But almost no one asks, who am I really? We have made ego into a lifestyle, and the cost is enormous. History has shown us what happens when narcissism infects leadership. Think of Elizabeth Holmes, who dressed like a visionary but was hollow inside. Think of Adam Newman, who built a cult of personality around we work and collapsed under his own illusion. Think of politicians, both East and West, who cling to power not out of service but out of fragile ego, unable to bear criticism, blind to their failures and deaf to truth. They do not fall because they are unintelligent. They fall because they are unreachable. And let me tell you something difficult. This same trap is destroying ordinary lives too. The man who can't apologize to his wife because it wounds his pride. The woman who ruins friendships just to appear perfect online. The teenager who posts photos for validation but feels more invisible each day. Narcissism is not confidence. It is fragility disguised as power. You cannot become free if you are obsessed with being admired. You cannot grow if you cannot be wrong, and you will never love, truly love, if you only see others as extensions of yourself. Modern life tells you to believe in yourself. Yes, believe in your value, but not your delusion, not your performance, because the truth doesn't care about your image. It only waits for your honesty. Number 5, running from reality. The comfort of lies over truth. The greatest enemy of human growth is not ignorance, it is denial. The refusal to face reality because it threatens our illusions. And this is the final, most destructive form of stupidity. Most people die before they are fully born. I wrote these words because I saw a world asleep, not dead, but not alive either. And what keeps them asleep? Lies, sweet, numbing lies, lies that tell you you're fine when you're falling apart, lies that tell you this relationship is love, even though it's control, lies that tell you this job is security even though it's soul death, lies that tell you your anxiety, your stress, your emptiness are all normal, just part of life. People no longer seek truth, they seek comfort, and so they curate fake happiness, they medicate every emotion, they deny every inner scream with a scroll, a drink, a performance. You live in an age where it's easier to post a quote about healing than to actually sit in your pain and ask why it's there, where it's easier to blame others than to confront your own shadow. Look around. People stay in toxic relationships because leaving would mean admitting they've wasted years. People stay in fake friendships because speaking up would mean being alone. People defend political ideologies blindly, not because they're true, but because they can't survive the identity crisis of letting go. And I tell you, anything you are afraid to question owns you. We are now a society of escape artists. We escape through entertainment, through food, through substances, through constant stimulation, because silence reveals truth, and truth demands transformation. And transformation is terrifying. Let me give you an example. How many people do you know who say, "I'm fine," while their eyes betray exhaustion and their voice shakes with suppressed truth? How many stay in marriages that suffocate them because society told them divorce is failure? How many people keep chasing money even after it has made them anxious, depressed, and numb? These are not bad people. They are terrified people, terrified of reality, terrified of seeing that everything they believed was a coping mechanism, not a life. And here is the cruel irony. The more you run from truth, the more you suffer. Not on the surface because you've numbed that, but deep down where your soul knows you've betrayed it. And eventually the lie becomes too heavy. You burn out, you break down, you call it a crisis, but it was never sudden. It was the weight of 1,000 ignored truths. You see, to be intelligent in this world does not simply mean to know facts. It means to have the courage to see what is, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it hurts, even when it means letting go of everything you thought made you who you are. Truth is not cruel. What's cruel is the life you build on lies, because one day it will collapse. So I ask you now, what truth have you been avoiding? What lie have you been living? And who would you be if you had the courage to stop running? Because until you face that, you are not living. You are sleepwalking. And the world is full of people who died in their sleep long before their heart ever stopped. If you have stayed with me through this journey, I ask you not to merely remember what was said, but to feel it, to let it disturb you, to let it shake the parts of you that the world has tried to sedate. Because what I have spoken about here is not abstract theory, it is your life. And if you are honest with yourself, truly honest, you will see that you have already compromised too much. You were not born stupid. You were born open, alive, curious, brave. But slowly the world taught you to trade that aliveness for obedience, for comfort, for approval. You were told to keep your head down, to listen to authority, to avoid conflict, to smile when you were uncomfortable, to nod when you wanted to scream. And so you learned to survive by forgetting who you are. You see, the tragedy is not that people lack intelligence. It's that they give it away, piece by piece. In every lie they swallow, in every truth they avoid, in every voice they silence inside themselves just to belong. That is how stupidity is created, not from a lack of brain, but from the abandonment of soul. And it is happening everywhere, in boardrooms and bedrooms, in classrooms and comment sections, in the decisions you make when no one is watching. You are told you need others to define you, that your value comes from what you own, that your peace must be approved by those around you. And so you become afraid of being alone, afraid of being disliked, afraid of being real. But I tell you, the price of truth is high, but the cost of denial is your life. If you live only to be liked, you will never be loved. If you live only to obey, You will never become. If you build your identity on lies, you will collapse with them the moment life tests you, and life will test you. You will lose people, you will lose certainty, you will lose comfort. But in that loss, if you are courageous, you will begin to find something deeper. Yourself. Not the self that performs, not the self that obeys, but the self that exists beyond fear. This self will not beg to fit in. It will not compromise for validation. It will not silence its truth to maintain harmony. This self is dangerous because it cannot be bought, bullied, or broken. It does not need applause. It does not need permission. It simply is. And when you live from that place, from your center, your truth, your soul, you are no longer a product of the world. You become a creator of it. So I leave you with this. The world will always try to control you, to numb you, to tame you. But you're not here to be tamed. You are here to awaken, to feel fully, to think freely, and to live deeply. Not as a puppet, not as a prisoner, but as a human being who finally